I'm delighted to say that Oliver Ford Davies joins us via Zoom this afternoon. Oliver, lovely to talk to you. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Good. Delighted to talk to you. This is going to be an interesting read when I manage to get my hands on it and read it. You were told that by Peter Dews that you'd be all right when you were 40 and even better when you were 50. And it turns out that he was right almost to the month. What happened?
Yeah.
What happened at that stage?
Well, when I was almost 50, yes, I joined the National Theatre, and after a year, they offered me a part in a new David Hare play, and I won the Olivier Award for Best Actor for that, and that changed my life when I was 50. So Peter was right, as always. It goes tremendously by what you look like. And I think I looked like, and to tell you the truth, I acted like a middle-aged man when I was in my 20s.
Really?
So when you really are a middle-aged man, you'll be in over.
It kind of like Clive Dunn used to do, yeah?
Yes.
Very good. Very good.
Very good.
A number, yeah, go on.
No, I was going to say, it happens the other way around. People with particularly good looks, but very good youthful looks, find it more difficult when they hit 50 because they say, well, you can't play the father of this teenager because you don't look old enough.
Okay.
So,
yeah.
it works both ways.
I suppose it does. I read only recently, I finished reading a book about Richard Harris, who happens to hail from the same city as I do, Limerick. And,
yes.
He was making the point in the interviews that this author had done with him that it is very much to do with how you look and how you carry yourself and all of that. But he never thought about becoming an actor. And I know that your book is not a life story, but can we ask you how you got into acting initially? Was it something you wanted to do, or did you fall into it?
No, I think I've been wanting really to be an actor since the age of 11. Oh. Because I had a great facility for passing exams, I stayed on the academic conveyor belt and finally got a job as a lecturer at Edinburgh University. And when I started on that in 1964, after 3 weeks, I thought, this is not actually what I want to do with my life. I saw the next 40 years spreading ahead of me, perhaps staying in Edinburgh. Why would you want to leave Edinburgh? And I thought, I better I want to give acting a go. I had a very sympathetic professor who said to me, right, if I were you, I'd go quite soon, because once you get a mortgage and possibly a family, you won't go. Okay. You won't leave the security of academic life. So after 2 years as a lecturer, I went.
And of course, the other side of that is if you were an actor, it'd be very difficult to get the mortgage, wouldn't it?
Yes, indeed. It took me a very long time to get a mortgage. I can do that.
This book is titled "An Actor's Life in 12 Productions." Is this? Sorry, I hope you appreciate that I'm just sitting in today. I got the call this morning, so there's very little prep in reading ahead on this one. Is this broken into 12 chapters or 12 stories about different things, or why is it called "An Actor's Life in 12 Productions"?
Well, I decided to centre on 12 productions, which were particularly important to me, but also were significant in their own right. And but I could see that since there are large gaps in between some of these productions, that I better fill in what happened to me in between. So there is a certain amount about my life, anyway, my personal and family life, but also about other productions that I was in, other films that I was in, etc., etc. But I've devoted, say, an average of 4,000 words to each of the 12 productions.
Lovely. All right. I would be familiar with you from the screen and from television, less so the stage, obviously, having grown up in Ireland and not being in the UK and so on. So, firstly, before we move on, do you have a preference for stage or film or TV? Is there something that you like doing more than the others, or do they all have good and bad?
Well, they all have good and bad. That's absolutely true. I think if I were really nailed down on this, I prefer the stage.
Right.
I prefer acting with other people who are physically there. Sometimes in film, the person you're acting with has gone home 2 hours ago, and the camera's just on you. And I also prefer the reaction of the audience, so that one is both acting directly to the other people on stage, but was also acting with the audience in mind. And I think I prefer that. Though I have to say that sometimes I'm so thankful in film or television that I don't have to do that scene again. I think, my God, if I had to be doing that for the next 7 months, I wouldn't be enjoying myself.
Yeah, there's always, as you say, pros and cons and good and bad and the whole lot. Now, this is about it spanning your career of 60 years, and you're exploring the many changes within the performing arts scene through your experience. So we touched on it there, but because I would imagine that when you're acting for television or for screen, things have changed considerably with green screen and other technologies that have come over the years. Would we be right to start there?
Yes, I think so. I mean, I think there are major changes. One is the large amount of filming that's done for television now, so that actors, if they're being trained, leaving drama school, are almost certain to be caught up in television.
Right.
50 years ago, they might, say, Albert Finney, go off to the Birmingham Rep for 3 years to really learn their trade, as they put it. Now television takes over, and that means, because television is so centred on London, that you have to be based in London, really. And so there's less going out into the regions. And, of course, there are fewer towns that have got their own weekly or 2-weekly rep. A lot of those have gone.
Right.
So there are major changes. And, of course, there are more films done in this country, not always specifically British films. We sometimes lament the fact that we don't have a consistent British film industry. But a lot of Americans have realised that it's advantageous to film in Britain, partly through tax breaks, partly through the fact, to be honest, that British actors are cheaper than American actors.
Right. Wow. Tell me about the people in the business, and we'll start with your colleagues, your acting colleagues. How different are the young guns to how they were 50, 60, 40 years ago?
Well, I think we live in more of a celebrity culture. So I think that a significant number, not all, a significant number of young actors come in with an eye to becoming a celebrity. It may be a temporary celebrity, like you've been in a soap for 2 years, and that may be a celebrity that will diminish. So I think that's a major change. And as I say, theatre has to an extent become second best. There's a great deal, I would immediately say, of musical theatre. The West End in London is dominated by musicals. So there's a lot of work for singers, etc. But there is less work, certainly in the West End, for straight plays, comedies, thrillers. A lot of those belong to the past, to be honest.
And is there any one part of the business, is there anything that you can point to and say, that's the biggest change that I've seen over 60 years?
That's difficult, isn't it? It
is. Yeah,
I think one of the major changes from my point of view is speech and audibility. In television in particular, you rarely get any rehearsal. So basically, the director just wants you to say the lines as naturalistically as possible. And so sometimes this leads to slurring speech, mumbling, inaudibility. I've had so many sound engineers who said to me in television and film that they call it realism, we call it inaudibility. And it's very, very rare for a director to ever do a retake because they didn't think the speech was clear enough. They concentrate on the shot. If the visuals are at fault, we'll do another take. But if somebody points out the sound is a bit, the sound will, the editing will put that right. Which sometimes it can't, a quiet mumble, if you turn the volume up, just becomes a loud mumble and is no more audible than it was previously.
You're actually singing off the same hymn sheet that I sing off of on a regular basis, because I remember starting in radio 40 years ago, over 40 now, and my father would have had experience from the stage, and he was trying to teach me how to project my voice.
Yes.
And listening to you and talking to you, your voice is strong. You're projecting, because even though this is just a conversation, you're in character and you're doing it, and you're pronouncing everything. And so many of the actors nowadays don't. They kind of talk like this as if they were just talking on the street, and nobody can. Yeah, so you're absolutely 100% right. Is there any particular role that you have played down the years that you did because you had to do it and you didn't like it?
I don't think very much in the theatre. Certainly in television, I sometimes just accepted the part, because it's just 2 or 3 days' work and it's the money. But I've been very fortunate in many ways in the parts I've been offered in the theatre, and I have nearly always enjoyed them. There are parts I wish I'd played, of course. As an actor, you are very much a casually employed person. You can't pick your parts, so that people might say to me, well, surely you've played Malvolio and Prospero. No. But you played King Lear. And I would say, yes, I never thought that I'd be offered King Lear. So I was rather surprised when I was. So there's a certain random nature of it, unless you are a huge celebrity. Perhaps if Richard Harris had said, I want to play King Lear, they would have fallen over for him to do it.
Maybe at a certain point, maybe there was a short window there. I'm not too sure. You picked 12 productions. You have done so many. How did you pick 12?
That was very difficult. Some of them, because I knew I had something interesting to say. For example, I picked up a play by Bernard Shaw called Heartbreak House because of the cast, partly. Paul Schofield, who was an actor I enormously admired, played the main part, and Vanessa Redgrave and Felicity Kendall and Daniel Massey and other people were in it. And I knew I had a lot to say about their acting, because I would say straight away, I have learned most about acting from other actors, from actually watching other actors. Directors don't see it as their job to teach you to act or help you to act. So you learn. Ben Kingsley once said, I've kept very good company. And I think I have, to a certain extent. I have learned so much. I've worked several times with, say, Vanessa Redgrave or Judi Dench or whoever, and I've learned so much from them, male and female, you will notice.
Yes, of course. Well, of course, an actor is an actor, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Talk to us about one or two of the productions that you chose and maybe why.
Well, of course, I chose the David Hare play that I did, Racing Demon. He was, I played a largely unsuccessful vicar in South London.
Right.
I have played an awful lot of vicars.
Have you?
I did eventually get to bishops and even to archbishops.
Oh, yes, right. You were the Archbishop of Canterbury, weren't you?
I was the Archbishop of Canterbury in several productions, including Johnny English.
Yeah.
So I obviously have a clerical face or a clerical demeanour. But mind you, I did go to school in Canterbury, so I learned an awful lot about the church there.
But there you go.
Yes, so that was unexpectedly successful. Some people argue it is, in fact, David Hare's best play. And so that was a big break for me. Otherwise, playing King Lear was a big break.
Yeah.
But I also did 2 productions with the Almeida Theatre. Well, one of Chekhov's Ivanov with Ralph Fiennes and Harriet Walter, right. And the other Naked with Juliette Binoche. So I've been very lucky in the company I've kept, and as I say, I've learned a lot from them. I was also very lucky. One of the culminations, actually, of my being labelled a character actor is when the RSC did Hamlet with David Tennant and Patrick Stewart as Claudius. Whoa. I played Polonius, and it was a remarkable production, extremely successful, and we later filmed it. So that's one of the standout productions.
I remember hearing from various successful comedians, the likes of Billy Connolly, talking about where they get their material, and they look at human nature and they work it into their scripts and into their routines. And you mentioned that you learned a lot from other actors. Did you learn anything from being observational while you're sitting having a coffee or a glass of wine somewhere? Did anyone from the general public, or does the general public inspire you or enhance your performance in any way?
Well, it's a very interesting question, because some actors quite definitely are very observational. I would not describe myself as particularly observational. What intrigues me is how people think. I'm often really entranced by somebody putting forward a point of view, perhaps which I radically don't agree with. And I think, how interesting that you think that. How did you come to think it that way? So a lot of my approach to acting is not, oh, he's the sort of person who rolls a cigarette like this. It's more, oh, he's the sort of person who thinks like this about going abroad or whatever it is. I think sometimes actors do divide into 2 classes. Laurence Olivier, for example, was a particularly observational actor. He would spend a lot of time getting the clothes absolutely right and the shoes absolutely right and the way he rolled a cigarette absolutely right. But I've never been really of that persuasion.
What about living the character off the set? If you're doing something over a period of time where you have to be a particular character, I think Jim Carrey, the American actor, is very big into that. Are you into that?
Well, I think actors often kid themselves, including me, that, directly I walk off the stage, walk off the film set, I drop the character. It's only, I think, later, perhaps a few weeks later, that you begin to think, playing this part is having an effect on me. Right. I maybe pretend it doesn't, but I can see that it does. And I think that's true. Some people like to remain in character. It's like people, for example, I worked with Daniel Day-Lewis. Now, Daniel Day-Lewis, as you know, through the lunch break, if he was playing an Irishman, as in My Left Foot,
yes,
he would want to stay speaking Irish through the lunch break. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. It sounds fascinating. I can't wait to get my hands on it and take a read of it. The name of the book is An Actor's Life in 12 Productions. I wish we had more time, Oliver, to talk about it and talk to you just about stuff, because it's very interesting. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us today, and our listeners, I'm going to say our readers, I was talking about reading, our listeners can get their hands on your book on our website at TRE.radio in our virtual bookstore there, and I hope they do so in their droves. Oliver Ford Davies, thank you so much for joining me today. I look forward to maybe chatting to you again sometime in the future. Continued success.
I've enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you.